This episode is brought to you by The Manor, a premier addiction treatment facility in the hills of Wisconsin's Kettle Moraine Forest. Their program offers a tailored approach to those struggling with addiction in a secluded setting with no more than 11 men and women. With highly personalized treatment focused on trauma, Dr. Chantal Thomas and her expert team offer an authentic experience, creating the kind of deep emotional change that's crucial for long-term recovery. If you or someone you love are struggling with addiction, call The Manor at 414-930-1930. You can learn more about The Manor by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting discoverthemanor.com. Thank you for listening to The Path to Authenticity. My name's Tom Gentry. I think of the show as the opposite of small talk. You'll hear real conversations with real people who know who they are. We talk about what makes them who they are, how they became who they are, and how we might become truer expressions of who we are.
Live on the road, live with no time.
I am Olivia Sage, and this is The Path to Authenticity.
To hide from the government's prying eye. Take yourself a summer holiday.
The Path to Authenticity proudly supports the I Speak Media Foundation, advancing media literacy education through an evolving series of outreach programs within the communities that need it most. For more information, visit ispeakmedia.org. If this is your first time here, thanks for checking it out. If not, thanks for coming back. I'm Tom Gentry, and this is The Path to Authenticity. Episode 151 for November 23rd, 2021, featuring Olivia Sage. Only 5 more episodes in 2021. After this, year's flown by. And in January, I'm going to be launching what I'm calling the January Journaling Challenge, where for each of the 31 days in the month, I'll be sending out a writing prompt via email for anyone who wants to be involved. So you can find a link in the show notes. Just need your email address. It'll also include private membership to a Facebook page where if you'd like, you can post something related to what you journal or maybe even sketch that day. So this is just something that I'm trying to do to help build this community a little bit, give people an opportunity to interact with me and with other listeners. That's something I really want to do more of in 2022. That being said, I've been doing a room on Clubhouse every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Right now, I'm in the middle of a 6-week series of conversations on codependency, which, if you listen to the show, you hear me talk about relatively often. So, come join us. Again, find a link in the show notes. You can either just listen in or you can take part in the conversation if you want. But either way, we'd love to have you. If you have the time and you're inclined to do so, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for the show. If you know somebody who'd enjoy this or any episode, please share it with them. Every little bit of your support helps. I'm approaching my download goal for the end of the year. And it's looking like I'm going to achieve it. So I'm excited about that. A lot of new listeners right now. Got some other exciting projects I'm working on for 2022. Lots of creative energy. And I'm just really excited. And this is a fun conversation. Like most of the others I've had recently, I recorded this live on Clubhouse. Another thing I'm going to try to do is do a better job of promoting these interviews that I'm doing live so that you know about them ahead of time. You can come listen and even ask questions if you want. Again, just want to build this community. I'm doing this because I want to interact with you all. So, hope you enjoy this. It's a great conversation. Olivia Sage. I'm trying to think of where we first crossed paths. And I think it was in a Sunday morning room on the topic of manhood and relationships. Is that right?
Yes, that sounds right. It was in Clubhouse in a men's room. Yeah.
And we're neighbors. And you reached out to me and said, hey, I'm down the road. You're in Boca Raton and I'm in West Palm Beach. It's funny. I don't think I've met anyone on Clubhouse in person yet.
No. Oh my God. I met someone in Mexico in person. I met in Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yes, it was so much fun.
It had to be. So tell me what you do.
So I'm a life coach. I coach mostly women and as I say, some brave men into their highest self and, the most authentic, purposeful living life that they crave. It's I only do one-on-one coaching, so it's highly personalized. And, we work with all areas of your life. They're all connected. And it's so beautiful to be able to dive in and, get to know someone in that way and hold their vision for them until they reach their goal.
So first of all, I have to ask you the accent. Where is it from?
Yeah, I'm originally from Turkey.
And so how long have you been in the United States?
12 years.
So what brought you here?
I feel like there's so many good things about Turkey in terms of the culture and the food and family, values. But I knew that I've always known that I wanted more. I wanted to explore and see the world. And when I was in college, I happened to come to Virginia and then Manhattan. And yeah, when I walked into the Times Square, that's magic. That magic really captivated me. And I said, this is where I'm going to live. This is where I want to be. So, and when I finished college, I applied for my master's in New York. And yeah, I just moved in 1 month. I moved my whole life here.
Mm. What did you study?
I studied PR and corporate communications at NYU.
Have you gone anywhere with that?
In the beginning, yeah, I worked with the tourism department of actually New York City. And I worked in tourism with the shows and, restaurants in Manhattan. And then I did a few projects, again, shows coming from Turkey to here, a little bit in Las Vegas. But then I decided to move to Florida. And I also decided that I don't like working in corporate.
So you just decided to move to Florida. There's more of a story there. Right?
I mean, I loved living in New York. It was just so magical for me. You know, I met so many amazing people from around the world. And, you know, that's one of the beautiful parts of New York. It's a melting pot, and you get exposed to so many different people and food and cultures. But something was missing there. Like, everybody was always in a rush to get somewhere, and they were still not happy. I craved deeper connections. I craved to be more grounded, and I couldn't find it there, no matter how much yoga classes I went to. It just, something was missing. And when I moved here to Florida, yeah, a lot of things shifted in my life. I started my yoga teacher's training. So I guess that was one of the bigger steps for myself. I started investing in myself, in my personal growth, not just education, you know. And I really enjoyed the Vedas, really the texts and philosophy of yoga, not just the physical practice. And I feel like that really brought a lot of meaning to my life, deeper meaning to my life. And that's how my journey started, I would say. Very mildly at the time, but it was a step.
So yoga was the first step.
Yes.
Why Boca Raton? I mean, I know this is a part of Florida where a lot of New Yorkers
yes.
are snowbirds or move.
Yeah, Italians and New Yorkers.
Yes.
I didn't always live here. I moved to Sunny Isles. I wanted to be on the beach. In a condo, I wanted that tourist life kind of thing. Like, I didn't want to drive to the beach. I just wanted to be on the beach. So for 6 years, I actually lived in Sunny Isles, and that was fun for the first 4.5 years. But then again, I wanted to move into a house where I will feel closer to Earth, to Mother Earth, and be more grounded. And so interesting, from moving from that building, I was living on the top floor, to living in a house. Even my yoga practice, I would say my headstands even shifted, and I felt so grounded living in a house in this community, because, as you know, in Boca Raton, like 95% of people here live here full time. And in Sunny Isles, it wasn't like that. People came in and out, and, you know, there was a lot of movement. Again, there was a yoga community, but there was not a neighborhood feel. And at some point, I was done with that, and I was craving more community and feeling more grounded again, being closer to. I always come back to this, like being closer to Earth, being in nature.
So you had a sense of that before you moved. You craved it?
Yes. I started feeling very ungrounded being on the 40th floor, and I realized that even with my practice, if I was doing a headstand at the studio, which was on the first floor, would be different than being home. And, you know, whenever I go down to the beach, feeling grounded, it would shift a lot of things in me. It would shift my mood, and I felt like that's where I should be. I should be closer to the Earth.
I've also gotten the sense, just from other things that have come up in our conversations, that there was a relationship that was sort of a turning point in your life too. Is that right?
Yes. So I was married. So before I moved here, I was married. I got married when I lived in New York. And Yeah, moving here, we moved together, and so I actually had a miscarriage in New York. I had 2 miscarriages in a row in New York. So that was part of me not feeling New York, that something was not, like, my body was not functioning in the capacity that it should. And the cold, I got into Ayurveda later, and I realized that I'm a Vata, which is air, and people with Vata personalities or doshas actually don't do well with the wind and the cold. Like, we need a lot of grounding, we need warm weather. So once I got into Ayurveda and shifted my nutrition and my environment, a lot of things changed for me. So in New York, my body was not doing well. Even though I was juicing and doing yoga, something was really off. So, and then I had 2 miscarriages. It just made sense. And I said, you know what? I don't want to try again until I moved out of here. I moved out of here to Florida, somewhere warm and somewhere where I can make deeper connections and be close, be in the ocean, be on the beach, and, you know, have more grounding practices. And then, so when I moved here, I got pregnant right away. I have beautiful sunshine 7-year-old right now. But then a lot of things changed. Like, my relationship at the time, we were supposed to move here together, but he was wrapping up some business in New York. So he ended up actually being in New York the whole pregnancy. And then, after my son was born, a lot of things changed. I learned that men also have postpartum depression, and that's what happened to my son's father. He got depressed after we had the baby, and so that was a real new territory for me. I offered to help and support and maybe get therapy, but he was not willing to do that. So it just went downhill from there. The first 2 years of my son's life, 2014 to 16, also my life, was pretty tough. It got pretty tough. And it was hard for me to understand what was happening, because I felt like this is the time that we were supposed to be happiest, you know, and everything was falling apart, getting worse and worse. So yeah, there was a day where I woke up and I'm like, I am living here on the beach in Miami. You know, this is what I wanted. I'm and I love driving, and I didn't have a car in Manhattan, so I got a car. I'm living on the beach. I just, you know, had a baby, healthy baby after 2 miscarriages. I'm married. Like, you know, I was checking all these boxes. I'm like, okay, now I'm supposed to be happy, right? Like, this is supposed to be the happiest time of my life. But I was so miserable that something shifted in me. I just felt so empty. And I went on this deeper journey of really asking questions and trying to get to know myself, like trying to find out what is it that I'm missing. And even though I had all these outside things and all the boxes checked, you know, I got to, you know, somebody said, like, I got the husband, I got the car, I got the house, I got the baby. And it was just like, felt empty. And, you know, so that's where I dived deep into my own values and realized that I was not going to be happy because I stopped growing, I stopped learning, I stopped living my life. I gave up on a lot of things that really was important to me. And I learned that sacrifice is not the path to happiness. It's devotion. I learned the difference between devotion and sacrifice. And I realized that I didn't love myself at the deeper level. So yeah, so I had to go on this journey of self-love and a lot of shadow work and inner child healing. It took me a good 3 years, I would say, to get to a good place. And I didn't know at the time what a coach was. I wish I did, but being here now, looking back, I always say that, I want to be that person that I needed at the time to my clients. And yeah, that's how I found my purpose. Just, there's always a silver lining to those years that I get to live the best, most authentic, truthful life I can live right now, and also help people get here as well.
So can you talk more about the difference between sacrifice and devotion? How did you come to that understanding, and say more about that?
Yeah. So, I thought this was cultural, but I think it's more than that, because I grew up in Turkey, and I just learned growing up that women should sacrifice themselves to be a good wife, to be a good mom, always put others first. So, and I was not conscious of that. That was embedded in my subconscious. So when I got married, there were some signs, like the universe, pokes you a little bit for I would say conscious healing, and then when you don't realize it, it gets worse and worse, and then you have to do forced healing. So for me, it was forced healing because I didn't pay attention to the signs at the time. So I was sacrificing myself in terms of just giving from an empty cup to my husband at the time, to my child at the time. And even when I went to like a yoga class to take care of myself, to move, to have some time for myself, everybody around me also was not supportive of that. And I started feeling really guilty. And I just didn't understand that I needed to take care of myself first and then give to others from the overflow. Even if that's my child or my husband. So I was just sacrificing my well-being, my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health, and to be there for my son, for my husband. But then everything fell apart, and I learned that I can be a devoted mother, but that requires self-love and self-care and putting myself first, even before my child.
Yeah, when you bring this up, it makes me think about poor choices I made going into the relationship with my ex-wife. And for me, it was about sacrificing wants. And it was, I think the problem for me was that I was coming from a place of scarcity. Like, this shouldn't be important to me because, she won't stay if I am invested in this or in that, and then what hit me a few years into the relationship is, all these things I enjoyed, all these things I liked, either I don't partake in them at all, or when I do, I get a lot of grief for it and I'm lost. Where am I? Where do I fit in this? And it almost felt like I didn't get to be in the relationship, right? Like the real me existing in the relationship was unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't anyone's fault but mine. I'm the one who did it. But it was not a sustainable way to live. Once I realized what was going on, I couldn't keep faking it. And it was painful. So for me to go through that experience and then to end up going through a separation and divorce, it was like, the butterfly coming out of the cocoon, really. And it sounds like you've had a similar experience.
Yes. I cannot believe how small I was keeping myself because I was scared, when I was supposedly doing these things for him and, just loving unconditionally, quote unquote. That was selfish because you cannot love anyone else without loving yourself first. And just like you said, if I do this, she's not going to be with me. Yeah, but that means this is not the right person for us, right? I also gave up on a lot of things. I used to avoid confrontation. I used to avoid speaking my truth because, yeah, I just wanted peace. But that was not a good way to find real peace, real happiness. And for me, it came down to really self-love and self-worth. I didn't feel like I can be myself and I can still be worthy of love. I felt like I had to sacrifice. I had to make the other person happy. I had to give up on what I love, and certain parts of myself I had to reject to fit into this mold where I thought, okay, this is the person he wants. This is the person he would love. So, like you said, like I just lost myself in the process.
Yeah. This is really the reason why I do this podcast, because for me, I don't think I've had a more painful experience ever than rejecting myself and my wants and denying myself the things that were important to me, and then trying to deal with the suffering of that. It causes us suffering, right?
Yeah, it does. And that's what I mentioned, the forced healing.
Right.
I feel like the universe always puts these opportunities in front of us, and we always have a choice. Like you said, I did it, right? Like I had to take radical responsibility for my own happiness, because I found myself in this cycle of blaming the other person and, blaming the circumstances. And like, I was just like not taking responsibility in the beginning. But I started learning about mirroring and child healing. I'm like, okay, what is this teaching me? So when I started asking this question, what is this teaching me? It can be a person, it can be a situation. What is this teaching me? What is the universe telling me? And I feel like there's two kind of people, like some people think that the universe is after them, like, why is this happening to me? Kind of like everything that happens to them is a punishment. And the other side of it is that, what is this teaching me? Universe is got my back. We have an army of angels now, I believe, that is always supporting us. And the universe is always holding us and keeping us safe and showing us the way. But it's us who need to look and pay attention and listen.
Yeah, I think so many of us just go through life with blinders on to these things. And it reminds me of a Carl Jung quote: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. Right? The victimhood that you're talking about, that's what, poor me. I had to go through that stage to get to the radical responsibility part. I had to get past the part where I'm a victim. I was dealt a bad hand, or if I only grew up this way, or whatever, that narrative that includes everything, but I could have made different decisions and had a better set of circumstances. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you working on? I think I saw you're doing some kind of workshop coming soon. Is that right?
Yeah, so I teach, I coach on Zoom. So I also sometimes crave the real connection and community. And yeah, when I feel called, I do these workshops. I have a breathwork and sound healing workshop coming up on Friday in Del Rey. And then I have a women's workshop coming up in Miami.
Awesome. Well, What do you feel like has been the most important part of this healing process for you?
I think just like we have generational trauma, I believe that we also can have generational healing. I feel like I have the responsibility to heal everything that was passed on to me and not pass it on to my child. I think it's us, me, who can stop this cycle. And, I only have one child, but I don't take it lightly. He touches so many people every day, and he's gonna touch so many people's lives throughout his life that it's just this ripple effect. What I give him, he's gonna give to others. So for me to be able to heal and stop this passing on of this generational traumas and is very important. Like, this has been the biggest part for me, the most important part, not to pass it on to my child.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot, having a 15-year-old. And for me, that trauma, the intergenerational trauma you're talking about, that's like a second layer. The more surface layer for me was alcoholism, which is all through my family on both sides. And, I grew up in an atmosphere where it was completely acceptable to be drunk several times a week if you were a male, right? As long as you weren't one of the women. And it feels really good that when I have taken my son, when he's experienced the atmosphere that was just normal to me, it's like completely foreign to him. It doesn't even compute. Like, why would somebody drink like that? When for me, it was like, this is what guys do. It's like what I aspired to be.
Mm-hmm.
That surface level stuff is easy to identify. And what was harder for me was to go layers and layers deeper and to not see the whole picture of it until my son was already 4 or 5 years old. And there was part of me that was really angry at God, really, because, why couldn't I have learned this stuff before? Why did I have to get married, become a father, get divorced, put him through that, which I always promised myself I would never, ever do. So then getting to the place where I started to realize what was really going on and how I was living out a script that was written for me, like through generations, right? I mean, passed down. And yeah, it was a hard thing to deal with, that it took me that long to figure it all out. But, on the other hand, we're always figuring it out. It's not like one day we have the answers and, we'll never make a mistake again, or this stuff won't affect us again because we'll reach some level of perfection. It just, life doesn't work that way.
Yeah. How did you shift that?
How did I shift it? I had some forced healing, and really it was my divorce. And I like that. I wrote that down the first time you said it. I'm going to use it. There was the divorce, which I thought, of course I'll never do that again. I'll never choose that kind of partner again, or get sucked into something toxic again. And so the first relationship I got into after my divorce was infinitely more devastating. Where it was on the divorce I went through, it felt like a loss in that I wasn't with my son all the time anymore. I mean, I was the relationship part of it. I was sad, the dream died, the dream that, my family was going to look like this, be shaped like this. That hurt. But, the relationship, it didn't. It just didn't. And I hate to say that, but it's true. But then the next relationship, I fell head over heels in love. And she had some major abandonment issues and was basically trying to blow it up the whole entire time. And I knew she loved me and I loved her. So by the time I realized what was going on, I was in both feet 100%, and I wasn't going to walk away. I wasn't going to turn my back on her. I loved her too much to not try. But man, it ripped my heart out. And that's when I began to really understand what codependence is. I had a spiritual guide who I was talking to about what I was going through during a period where we were apart. And, I felt like I was going to die. It was so painful. Like I felt like I was going to die. And he said, "You're detoxing. You're detoxing." And he was right. I was just on this emotional roller coaster with it. And so then I really started to look closely at that, where these concepts, boundaries, self-esteem, all that kind of stuff, I understood on a surface level, but I didn't really see how the extent to which I was living in a dysfunctional way and how symptomatic I was of code. It was, like textbook. I did a relationship inventory, like what are the patterns that I'm engaging in? I really started to work on myself. And also I've had a lot of individual therapy. I have twice before my marriage and once after my marriage gone through the entirety of a relationship from start to finish, walking through it with a therapist. From asking her out until closure. That has been very, very helpful for me and ultimately helped me see where the needs that I didn't get met as a child, I was still trying to resolve. And what I really thought was love, this intense sort of deep attraction that's like, it's just so deep and palpable and powerful. And that was really a trauma bond. What I thought was love was just a hurt part of me that, wanted desperately to have the love that I didn't get in childhood when I needed it. And that's not to say I didn't get any of it, but, there's certain aspects of it that I didn't get. And I was always trying to find somebody to fix that. And I think the real turning point for me was I was in love with somebody and, heartbreak, went through a heartbreak and was talking through it with this therapist. And one of the things she helped me see was this overwhelming, powerful feeling of love that I felt for this other person. She didn't do anything to create it. It was all inside of me already. Wanting to come out, wanting to be shared, wanting to be given to somebody else. And it was already mine, so that helped me see, I can use that to love myself. I need to give myself some of that, treat myself with kindness, treat myself as a precious soul and regard myself the same way as I did this person. And really making the connection that that this love I already have was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Then like I don't need someone to give it to me. I already have enough love, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I can find someone who, I want to be devoted to, going back to the word devotion, and I want to share that, and we want to do this together, that's different. It's a very different thing than coming from a place of need, of I don't have enough, so I need you to compensate for what's missing in me. That's a recipe for disaster in a relationship.
Yeah, that's why it's also so important to do the inner child healing work before getting into relationships, because you're always going to try to find that love that you didn't get from your parents in your partner. You're going to try to get it from your partner, but it's always going to be some kind of, either codependency, or it's never going to be a healthy attachment. It's usually going to be anxious, avoidant attachments with that. And this idea of like finding my other half, like it's in our language, just like you said, this love that we are giving to others, once we give it to ourselves, everything shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not so needy of the other person, or you're not so attached to the other person. And then you just share.
Mm-hmm.
You just share your wholeness and happiness and peace, instead of trying to get things from the person. Because I feel like these expectations in the relationships is very dangerous, because, a lot of people are in relationships because of the other person's potential, first of all. Like, they don't see the person in front of them.
Right.
They see this potential, and they know something is off, and that's their intuition telling them this is not it.
Right.
But they're just so attached to this potential and what it can be, that they just get stuck there.
Do you know anything about A Course in Miracles?
Oh, yes. I love the Course in Miracles.
Well, what comes to mind is a special relationship versus a holy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That practice, the Course, has really, really helped me as it pertains specifically to romantic relationships, and helped me shift my mindset to not looking to get something from somebody, not having an agenda, and just loving someone like you talked about, the expectations. Because if I need something from you, then my love for you is conditional.
Mm-hmm.
If that's why I'm doing it. And so many of us, that it is. It's like, and maybe it's as simple as, I need you to be with me so I don't have to be alone. Like, none of us wants to be alone. None of us want to die alone. But if I really love you, like really love you, that means I want what's best for you, whether that includes me or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want. Not necessarily to be able to be with someone who has that understanding. That what this is really about is we're committed to bringing out what's best in each other. And for you to be happy, no matter what. And if we can do that, then it makes things a lot easier, and we can be real about things. Like, one of the things that I think about is, at least in my experience, when I've gotten into relationships, it's like, okay, so we reach this understanding that I want to be with you forever. You want to be with me forever. So we will accept no other idea into our consciousness besides that's the way it's going to be, which puts an enormous amount of pressure on the relationship, first of all, but also inhibits us from talking to each other about what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw this other person today who I was physically attracted to. To be able to have that kind of conversation and be real. So most people are just afraid to have that level of intimacy. They can't handle it, right?
Yeah. Did you read The Way of the Superior Man?
No.
He talks about this in the book. I highly recommend the book, by the way, to men and women. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. It talks about how to, we are human. We are going to be physically attracted to other humans, whether we're in a relationship or not. And it talks about how to handle that situation without hurting anyone or getting hurt, basically. But you said something like we're in this forever, but nothing is forever. We are not forever, that's a big commitment.
Well, and that's kind of my point. It's like we're going to pretend together, right? We're going to pretend. And in doing so, we're not living in reality. Now, we could fully intend to be together forever and be committed to each other that we're going to do everything we possibly can to do that. But also create an atmosphere where if one day you wake up and realize this isn't what I want anymore, that I love you enough that you can come to me and tell me that. And I'm still going to be in your corner, even though it hurts. Right?
Yeah, this is something I realized that I didn't have, this foundation of love that is soul to soul, right? The light in me sees the light in you. I love you no matter what, without any expectation, attachment. And if you're going to be happier with someone else, I have to also support you in that. And I actually experienced this much later, after my divorce, a few years after my divorce. I met someone that is still one of my best friends. And all our conversations, we talked for 2 hours, and we are we should have really saved that, recorded that, because that would be really helpful for a lot of people, because we go deep and we're so open and authentic, and it's so beautiful that, so we started talking, and he's from a country very close to Turkey. He's from Serbia, and we have some experiences in our childhood, some trauma, some family dynamics that are very similar. So we found each other really understanding and holding space for each other in a deeper way, and a different way than other people, our other friends, can. And then that led to intimacy. But then I had to realize that, we loved each other. And then I just realized that he's looking for something else, and he's always been honest about that. And for me, it didn't take me long to let him go in terms of romantic relationships. And I felt so liberated. And I just realized I love this person and I would date him, but he's dating someone else right now. He's relating to actually 2 people right now. And he is being so authentic, so open, so honest that he's very happy, and seeing him happy makes me so happy. And I just realized, I think this is unconditional love. This might be just it, because I love this person and I'm not attached to being with him. I'm not trying to get anything from him. I just want him to be happy. Like you said, whether with me or not. And but this requires big honesty with yourself, with the other person. And we've done a lot of work, he's done a lot of work too. So It's beautiful when you find and experience this kind of love, I think.
Well, it makes me happy to hear that you have had that sort of experience. I haven't yet. Since I started doing the work. I mean, I've dated a little bit here and there, but nothing has ever come of it. And
yeah, I'm not with the person right now.
Right.
But but I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed this. This has been awesome. So, looking back on your life, when was the time when the younger Olivia needed some support or advice? When did she need it most? And what would you go back and say to her?
It's when it's when I had everything I thought I needed to be happy, but I felt empty right after my son was born. And I would tell her to trust herself. To trust herself and don't be scared. Just be on the path of loving yourself and living your truth.
I believe that is the divinity that we possess within. You know, the wisdom. I believe we know where we're supposed to go if we can just listen and respond, right? That's the hard part, to be tuned in. Well, this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes, me too. Me too. Thank you.
All right, there you have it, Olivia. If you enjoyed the show, again, please leave a rating or a review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen, whatever they allow you to do. Please do it. Every little bit helps. I want to thank the show's sponsor, the Manor and Windrose Recovery. Thank Olivia for being on the show. As always, I want to thank the band Punk Rock Opera, whose music you hear throughout the show. Their songs are used with permission from the artist and under a Creative Commons license. I appreciate your time. As always, thank you for investing your time in me and in this show. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, both at The Path to Authenticity. Check me out on Clubhouse, Sunday night, 7 p.m. Got lots of other stuff in the works. And I'm on there at some point pretty much every day. Having a lot of conversations about manhood, about things like codependency, about recovery, if you're interested in that. Anyway, love to connect with you. So hope you have a great week and a happy Thanksgiving. Pretty disappointed about the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Gotta tell you, it pisses me off to no end, and I hope it pisses you off too. So, we need to be kinder to each other. And we need to value life more than we do. We've become really desensitized. It's tragic and sad. Anyway, keep coming back. Be nice.
That's our story. I hope you enjoyed the punk rock opera. And we have one last piece of music for you. It goes like this. Okay, go.
break us, you cannot make us. We are the Jedi Man. Generation self-made bands, we cut our teeth with bloody hands. The rage has instilled in us, can feed a crowd, give them a rush. Thank you. Good night.